What's up? So, I want to talk about the hook grip for the Highland Games. Hook grip is a way of grabbing a barbell that's very common in Olympic lifting and powerlifting, but we also use it in the Highland Games because we are holding on to implements that have metal handles, and we are usually spinning at a pretty good rate of speed and have to release that as fast as we can and throw it as hard as we can. And oftentimes that leads to grip blowout. So a lot of people, almost everybody, adopts a hook grip for the weights for distance. The weights for distance and the weight for height are really the only two places that you can hook grip. If you want to try to hook grip a stone, I guess go for it. But the weights for distance and weight for height is where you're most commonly going to see it. What I wanted to address were some of the common mistakes that I've seen athletes make, both in terms of losing their grip when they throw and also the wear and tear on their thumb. One of the hallmarks of being a Highland Games athlete is that you develop a pretty gnarly thumb over time. You get some bruising just because of all the fluid, all the blood that you're pressing in there at a high rate of speed, high pressure when you got that implement in your hand and you're spinning with it. So that's bound to happen a little bit. You'll get a little bit of bruising and discoloration, but what we want to prevent is the nail bed starting to come loose. And this is a problem that I see a lot of Highland Games athletes have, especially as they start to get better at the throws and they generate a lot more speed, so there's a lot more pressure on that thumb and nail bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to address that and also lock in your hook grip a little bit tighter for the weights for distance and the weight for height. Now, very quickly, I'm going to advocate for a few supplies that you should have in your bag to help with the hook grip. These are not strictly necessary, but I found that they're extremely helpful. So we're talking about tape, talking about chalk, we're talking about tacky. Usually it's a chalk or tacky situation, but I'll get into that. So tape. I do have another video on how to tape your hands for the weights for distance, and that is useful here. That talks a lot about how to wrap your thumb. I'm going to leave that unwrapped because of what I have to demonstrate here. But one thing I very, very strongly advocate is for the hook grip, if you've had problems with slippage, is to tape your first two fingers right here, right below that knuckle, between the first and second knuckle right there. Is to create two rings right there. What that's going to do is give you something to get a little bit of purchase on, so you're less likely to slip due to moisture or just, you know, regular skin slippage. You'll have something right there along with, you'll have tape on tape contact, which gives you an extra layer of grip. Chalk. I'm a chalk and tape thrower. I don't use tacky when I throw. I just like to keep the moisture off my hands. That's chalk's primary job, is to get rid of moisture and make it so I'm less prone to slippage. I can't remember the last time I blew out grip during weights for distance or weight for height, and I generally don't have any thumb pain or issues long term, or I've never lost a nail from it, so take that for what it's worth. Some people do choose to use tacky. If you do that, if you like to secure your grip with tacky, totally legal to do that. However, as a matter of courtesy and as a matter of making it easier to get a grip next time for yourself, don't get tacky on the handle of the implement. This will not make you a popular thrower, because you're usually, you know, you're throwing with, you know, 7, 8, 10, 12 other people sometimes, and they may not want tacky on the handle, and that can be problematic for them. So if you're going to use tacky, put tacky right here on these two little tape pads that you've created. That way you're putting tacky on your thumb, the top of your thumb there. You're creating a bond between the top of your thumb and those tape spots, and you're not getting it all over the handle. And it will actually secure it in pretty darn well. Okay, so let's get into the particulars of the technique. The major thing I see a lot of people do wrong, especially people that have a lot of thumb pain or they have that nail bed starting to rupture, is that they are kind of gripping not all of their thumb. They're not nestling their thumb in. And what I mean by that is, I'll try to get as close as I can so you can focus here, is that the idea of a hook grip is that we have that bar coming in to the meat of the hand right here. We want to run our thumb along the top of that bar and then grip these two fingers over it. So what happens is a lot of people only use this last bone in their thumb above the knuckle right here. They use that to grab over the top because it feels like a nice, stable, you know, little spot to grab. It feels nice and straight like the bar, so you grab on top of that. So if you could see under there, what you'd be seeing though is that you're creating a prying action almost. Is that the bar is under here, the handle is under here, and it's prying up into that thumb, and the fulcrum that's being created is basically right at the nail bed, right where people tend to normally get that bruising and discoloration, and where eventually the nail can get separated and die. So what you want to do is take this thumb, run it in farther, and use the landmark of that knuckle right there, and split the difference with those two fingers over the top. Let me show you that again. Get that thumb all the way in as far as you can, especially on top of the handle. Split the difference with the thumb knuckle between those two. Now you're locked in. This thumb is locked in there. There's no wiggle room this way, because if you notice when I go flat, there's room for that thumb to still come out, or I'm not grabbing onto as much of my thumb. This way I'm grabbing onto the maximum amount of thumb. It's tucked in and folded as hard as it can be. And now it's going to take quite a bit of force, especially with the tape, chalk and or tacky added into that. You release when you feel like releasing. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope this advice works for you. Remember, any advice you get from anybody in the throwing, lifting, training world, don't take it as absolute. Don't do that with mine either. Try what works for you, but I encourage you to try these things out with hook grips, see if it's more comfortable, works a little bit better for you. Thanks.